Hi guys, welcome back. This is Professor Ren. We are now on chapter 8. We're going to be discussing the market structures, predominantly perfect competition. And so we're going to go there now. Okay, so what are the four market structures? Micro is really big on this part, so it's really important to focus on these next three chapters of 8, 9, and 10. The three chapters go over these four market structures. Basically, you have two competitive ones. Perfect competition and monopolistic competition. Then you have two not so competitive, the monopoly and the oligopoly. Think of them this way. Perfect competition is called perfect because it has a perfect substitute, which means all the raw materials, and this is usually about something like that, like a raw material that's selling wholesale, right, is indistinguishable from one another, like sugar by the ton, corn by the ton, mercury by the unit. You know, it's like no matter who sells it, you're getting pretty much the same thing. Think crude oil. Monopolistic competition, it's called monopolistic competition because it can be monopolized, which means the products are a little similar. So for instance, I have this image here for you of makeup. If you buy lipstick, if you buy deodorant, if you buy perfume, you know, are they exactly the same? Of course not. That's why you have a preference for this brand or that brand, this shade or that shade. But can you change, you know, is there more than one person making lipstick, more than one company? Is there more than one company making deodorant? Are they distinguishable from one another? Yes. Is it too different? Not really. I mean, can one deodorant give you the same effects? Maybe not, but similar enough? Maybe yes. So they're both competitive because they have lots of companies in them, lots of firms. On the other hand, monopoly, the market is being controlled, that's that part, in one company, mono, just one. That's why you have like one balloon. Right here, you have three. Oligopoly is a few companies control the market. So many control the market, but the product is identical from company to company. Many control the market, but the product is distinguishable. It has brands. It's not really some sort of wholesale. It's retail. These two, there isn't a lot of competition. You have one company, the whole industry is one company, or the whole industry is just a few companies. Now we're going to get to each one of those. This is chapter 8 right here. This is chapter 9, and this is chapter 8. This is chapter 9, monopoly. And then monopolistic competition and oligopoly are actually chapter 10, and we come back to them. But these are the four market structures. In this chapter, we're going to focus on perfect competition. So let's go to what perfect competition is. So here are the characteristics of perfect competition. There are many, so we need an S here. If one of you wants to volunteer to edit my slides, by all means, I will very much appreciate you. So here are the characteristics. Many sellers, homogeneous product, easy entry and exit, and there's plenty of information. So let's look at the first one, many sellers. What does that mean? They are so numerous that they can't really stop and study each other thoroughly. It's the kind of thing where you have an idea of what the competition is doing, you try to stay very close to what the competition is doing, but the market gives you all the information you need as a seller and all the information you need as a buyer. Many sellers, that's why I have like many cars. This reminds me of an airport. The product is homogeneous, meaning it's a perfect substitute. The product is identical. So for instance, think isopropyl, for instance, alcohol, right? Think steel in its grade. Think timber. For instance, if you are buying timber from oak trees, you can't really distinguish one forest from the other for the most part. So it's going to be a homogeneous product. There's easy entry and exit, meaning there are no barriers to entry. Now, this doesn't make too much sense here until you hit monopoly, which is our next chapter, and then oligopoly, the one after that, and you see that there are very particular barriers to entry. Because there are no barriers to entry is why there are many sellers. If there were barriers to entry, you wouldn't have many sellers. So this is a market that is easy to enter, is easy to exit. It's not penalizing either way beyond the usual, initial investments. The information is abundant. So this is the only one that has this much clarity. Because the product is a perfect substitute in this market, and because generally is sold wholesale, The information about how much it's selling for, how it's getting graded, who is buying it, where it is selling, how the prices are changing from day to day, even hour to hour. Sometimes when you look at the futures of some of these things, you will realize that the information is quite available. That's why I have this over here for you. These are the 4 characteristics. Now, perfect competition is a price taker. So perfectly competitive firms are the only price takers. What does it mean that they are price takers? Companies take the price from the market. It's not the firm that sets the price. The market sets the price because it really has to do with the equilibrium that all buyers and pretty much sellers agree on. So here are some pointers. Product lacks uniqueness. When we say it lacks uniqueness, we call it the perfect substitute. Is it possible that the product isn't exactly identical but close enough to be labeled identical? Yes. Remember, in reality, things are a little bit looser than when we kind of learn them. You know, kind of like saying you're learning. Right now you're learning about the color red. Yeah, but how many shades of the color red are there? And sometimes people say that's not red, that's orange. Have you ever heard anybody say something like that? So just remember that you're just learning what the color red is, but in reality there are many shades of red. Intense competition, lots of competitors, dozens of competitors. It's just too many to keep track of. Pricing approach emphasizes target pricing. What does that mean? You realize that the way you need to price your product is very much related to how other companies are pricing their products. If you price under, if you price over, you're going to get in trouble, and we're going to look at that. Examples: food commodities, corn, corn oil, it's all wholesale. Rice, wholesale, like basmati rice, organic, its own price. Basmati conventional, its own price. Anything that has to do with raw materials. Natural resources. Okay. When we say natural resources, we mean things like crude oil. We mean things like timber. We mean things like, for instance, travertine sourced from Turkey, or marble sourced from Italy. Generic consumer products and services. So when we think of this as generic, if you think of what generic is, it's like it perfectly substitutes for just about anything else. For instance, if you get a generic medication, you're getting the same exact active ingredient. That's why, you go, I don't want to pay $100 for this one when I can pay $2 for something that has the same active ingredients. So then what you notice is once it becomes generic, everybody is charging $2 for it. This is what a price taker is. This is the only one. The other 3, monopolistic competition, monopoly, and oligopoly, are price makers or seekers. So those, they get to set the prices in a way that price takers cannot. Now, what kind of demand or elasticity of demand do perfectly competitive firms have? Well, they're called perfectly competitive because the substitute is perfect. Therefore, what are they going to have? A perfect type of elasticity. But which extreme? The inelastic or the elastic? Obviously, the one that equals infinity. And I say obviously, and once I point it out to you, you're going to go, that makes perfect sense. So what they possess is perfectly elastic demand. Why? This is the demand curve right here. It's going to be a horizontal curve. It means at this price right here, right? Let me see if I can draw a little. If this price right here, can we draw? Maybe. At this price right here, right? Set by the market at this price. All companies are charging this price, and how much are they actually selling? They are selling to infinity. Any possible output. This much, let's say this is a $10 price. This much is $10. This much is also $10. This much is also $10 to infinity. It doesn't matter constantly. It's going to be to infinity. So the demand curve is actually going to be horizontal. I will throw in here that also the marginal revenue curve is going to be, but we're going to get to that in a minute. So they are price takers. They take the price from the market. They sell how much? They sell everything all the way to infinity. I know I can't really draw with the mouse, not one bit, but but this is supposed to be my infinity here. That doesn't look like anything. Okay, so this is their demand. Now remember, I have videos for you where I construct all these one by one, and you get to watch them. By all means, watch those. This is just a PowerPoint, so we have a bit of a highlight. Now we go here. Would a perfectly competitive firm raise prices? No. Why wouldn't they raise prices? Well, if you are selling here everything, right, at this price, you are selling everything here. Why exactly would you jeopardize that? If everybody else is selling at $10 and you go and sell at 11, what the consumer, remember this is an informed consumer, the consumer is going to say, I know I can get pretty much the same thing from Jane. I don't know why for $9 or $10, why am I paying 11 or 12 from Joe? And, buying it from Joe, you really wouldn't. People wouldn't. And so what you end up with is pretty much everybody is charging this price. Now, what should happen if you decide to charge a price above everybody else, right? What should happen is you should sell nothing. Now, maybe you don't sell nothing. Maybe not every one of your buyers in reality is that aware. However, you will lose enough in sales that it will jeopardize your business and potentially put you out of business. So no, they will not actually raise their prices. Now, I'm going to stop right here. And when I come back, we will talk about reducing prices. This is long enough for now. I'll see you in video 2.